I'm Melissa, and we are here for another episode of the Paladin Podcast. And I said it right on the first try. I'm here with Coach Jennie Deignan. She is joining us today, and we're just going to chat a little bit about, her history, her thoughts on coaching, and we'll just see where it takes us. So, Jennie, tell us a little bit about your history. We'll just start with that.
Cool. So I kind of grew up as an athlete, I guess. I kind of grew up on a ranch, just like working cattle, just always being active. And that was something that was really emphasized, I guess, to me as a kid. And then played sports. I grew up in a really small town, so I played 3 sports, just because that's what you do in a small town. And then ran a little bit of track in college, nothing like crazy. I wasn't like more there for moral support, but still stayed active through college. And then joined the Marine Corps when I was just out of college, went in as an officer. And so obviously had to stay relatively fit for that. And got out of the Marine Corps in 2018. And I didn't get into CrossFit. I mean, I obviously worked out through kind of all those years, sometimes more consistently than others. And I'd done everything from, I'd run, kind of been a sprint athlete, and then I decided to be a distance athlete for whatever strange reason. So I had done, the short distances, and I had done the 3-mile races and half marathons and all that and then I'd done some weightlifting, just kind of had been all over the place, was always, kind of intense about it. And so it was funny because I always had people throughout my life always, trying to get me into CrossFit and kind of say, you would love this. This is, right up your alley. It's really intense. It's really competitive. It's really hard. I know that you love that kind of stuff. So I always had people just trying to get me into it. And I was always like, no, I don't. I always subscribed to the more traditional, NSCA strength and conditioning, very methodical programming and things like that. So then I just got to a point, I guess it was a year before I got out of the Marine Corps. I was just in a job, in a billet that was really, really stressful, and just working crazy hours and lots of stress. And I knew that if I didn't do something, I was going to start having anxiety attacks or panic attacks or something, because it was just, my working out was relatively consistent, but not really, my intensity definitely wasn't high. And I was just kind of moving to move, which is not bad, but I wasn't really pushing myself, and I felt myself just feeling worse. And, I felt like I was getting injured more, even though I was moving less. It was really ironic. And so there was a ton of people who were in that same job with me who did CrossFit at the time, and just come try it. And I just come try it with me. And that was in 2018. It was January 2018. So tried CrossFit, and then I was just immediately hooked. This is not
classic.
Yeah, exactly. This is not at all what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be really mindless. Just I think that was, probably a lot of people who've kind of been in the fitness world for a while have this incorrect, probably, assumption about CrossFit, that it's just mindless programming and people just going in and being crazy and moving, however they want to in poor ways. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Injuries left and right. And that was not at all it. And so, I think, I was fortunate enough to be introduced when I first started CrossFit to a coach who knew what he was doing. He knew how to program, he knew how to correct movement, and he knew how to scale and implement people as they were ready. I mean, and for me, I was probably easier to coach into it because I'd been Olympic lifting, previously, and I had an athletic background. So it wasn't like I was totally deconditioned and coming in with no experience, but I saw how he used those athletes in his own gym, and got them where they needed to be in a healthy way. And to obviously the community, I'd never been so consistent and, had able to maintain such a high intensity, before that, like I said, my workouts have been spotty. They've been all over the place. And then CrossFit really just got that consistency that I needed to, and it just spilled over into everything. I started, paying attention to my sleep, before I started, it's ironic, before I started CrossFit, I was maybe getting 4 or 5 hours a night, just like crazy. And then without even doing anything, and it wasn't my goal going into a CrossFit class to try to like lose weight or, that was not really my focus at the time. But I dropped like 10 pounds of body fat just because I was sleeping and because I was like hungry when I was paying attention to my body, and I was eating when I was hungry, and, eating what I wanted to eat, but just stopping when I was full, and so, that consistency. And I think that, that community of like-minded people, just helped me kind of balance the stress out in my life. And it's been fun from that. I should definitely haven't forgotten it. I learned a lot. I had I had been coaching before I started CrossFit, and I had some coaches who were more, traditional, like NSCA type, CSCS coaches, who kind of like, I guess, groomed me in that direction. And so I had that background, and I certainly haven't forgotten it. But, now I feel like I have this whole new perspective with CrossFit that is just, it, helps my programming, helps my coaching, and all that. So that's a short story made long. That's how I got here today.
Yes. Well, I guess you already were kind of interested in coaching before CrossFit. You've just kind of been drawn to helping people perform better and do better. What was it about, like, when you started CrossFit, were you instantly like, oh, I want to help people do this? Or was it just after a while that you kind of saw that would be something you'd like to do?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't really remember it's kind of my personality too. Like, as soon as I start something, it's like, I'm going to go all in, like I'm not going to do it halfway. And so it was like, well, if I'm going to do CrossFit, I'm going to be a coach. That's just the way it is. And so, and I love, I think I'm in physical therapy. I'm in physical therapy school now. And so, having like hands-on helping people learn how to move better has always been, it just feels like really innate to me. And it feels like what I was made to do. And so, like with CrossFit, I wanted to be able to, because not every box is the same, not every gym is the same. There are gyms with some great coaches and mindful coaches, and there are some gyms that don't have some great coaching, and that is where we see injuries and, people really getting turned off from CrossFit is when you maybe don't have that mindful or experienced coaching, trying to get people where they need to be. And so I think I wanted to be part of the positive kind of movement and the positive perception of CrossFit, where people, see someone who, kind of walks the walk and talks the talk with CrossFit, and, is like really mindful of what they're doing with their own lives, but also has a coach who's able to, to shape that mindset for someone else and help them, meet them where they're at and get their movement the best for what they can do, and not necessarily try to coach them as if they're a games athlete. So that was definitely part of the draw. Just wanting to, again, just be part of the positive side of CrossFit to help people understand, that it's not just a bunch of crazy people doing crazy movements out of control.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Yeah, right. So there are some, and
that's half the fun, right?
Staying after class and working on freestanding handstand push-ups, just stupid stuff. But doing that with it, like being able to be a smart coach and being able to coach people within their abilities. So that's definitely a big draw for me. And I think I've seen myself, this is more personal, but I've just seen my road continues to be shaped more and more toward just optimizing movement and optimizing, human performance. And so I felt like CrossFit was just another incredible tool to add to that toolbox, and it's become foundational for me too, where it's weird because I always, considered myself like a traditional strength and conditioning thinker. And I certainly started to build my foundation on that. But now with CrossFit, I'm like, oh wait, no, this foundation is very multidimensional.
Mm-hmm.
It's, there's so much more to fitness than just being a good programmer, and knowing the science behind it.
Yeah.
So, so that's kind of the draw to coaching, at least, and then eventually the draw to physical therapy too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I think for me as a coach, the longer I do it, the more I realize that, everybody is different, and just having all those different tools in the toolbox, we can make such great progress with anybody, because, whether they come in and they're already just a high level athlete, or if they come in and they're not able to squat low enough to sit down on a bench, we can work with anybody, and it doesn't need one methodology. And, your experience from before CrossFit has helped you come up with some really good options for people. And then my experience just through the years, kind of seeing what's working and what's not, and exploring, and not feeling like we have to stick to a template for each person. Just being able to kind of explore and experiment and see, like, that just leads to such good results for each individual, I think.
For sure. And I think too, it helps just to come in and to immerse yourself in the class experience itself. That's half the fun for me, is coming in and being coached, and having, someone give me feedback and me feeling what the workouts feel like. Cause I know a lot of times in the strength and conditioning world, and there's and coaches in general, there's the big, divide, or I guess debate right now between just grinding and doing the work, putting in the hours, getting up at 4, going to bed at 12, just the crazy, old school, I guess, mindset, and the more, kind of mindful mindset that people are trying to emphasize nowadays. But anyway, in that world, I think there's a lot of temptation to, build the perfect program and have it never do it yourself, never know how it feels, never know, what a different scale might feel like, if this unilateral movement makes sense, is it too much for the dumb? Whatever you're programmed, that temptation is to not, you're so busy that you never work out yourself.
Right.
You think about the big, I think about I had great high school coaches, but they didn't work out themselves. They had no idea what it felt like they couldn't demonstrate, they couldn't move the way that we needed to see movement happen, to really coach us as young athletes. And so again, that's just part of the fun of being part of a CrossFit community, a local CrossFit community, is getting to both know people and coach them, and then to be coached and to be mentored, just in both directions. I think that's really unique and a lot of fun. So,
and I think too, part of that, what you brought up, a lot of times, we have coaches that were just good at what they did, and maybe never had to struggle to figure things out. And I always say that's kind of one of the things that has helped me become a good coach, is that nothing comes naturally to me. Nothing is easy. I've had to struggle through and figure out how to do things over the years. But that struggle alone, when you come in and you're just trying to figure out how to do a particular movement, and all the different things you try, that's all feedback for us as coaches on what somebody else might be going through. And that's why I have so many different scaling options for people, because I have to do things the hard way. Nothing comes easy to me. And I think that there's things, obviously you're a good athlete, but gymnastics is, maybe that's not naturally your ability, but you've really grown over the last couple of years in your abilities there. And I think that in turn helps you be a better coach.
Yeah, so. I think so too. It's funny that when you started saying that, I was thinking of gymnastics. How long have I worked on muscle ups? And I think that's the beauty of it too, because I said, I played multiple sports, was usually, pretty athletic, and as far as Marine Corps side of things, the physical part of it was never really hard for me. There were other things that were definitely hard, but that was not it. And so to be introduced to gymnastics that I had never done before, I have these y'all can't really see me, these long, lanky arms and legs that I can't control. And so seeing me up on the rings or up on the rig is quite literally a comedy. And so, like you said, I think being introduced to that and like seeing and feeling how hard it is when you first start, you think, how is this girl who's half my size, half my height, like lifting as much weight as she is and getting up on the bar as quickly as she is? Like, I've been an athlete my whole life, why can't I not do this? And seeing, like you said, seeing that and struggling through it and figuring out what I need to do to adapt my body in different ways and make it move the way I want to has only, helped me be a better coach. So it's good to, I've learned that it's good to struggle, and it's really fun when things don't come easy to you, because it knocks you off your high horse for a little bit. Yeah. We all need that.
Yeah. And then when you actually like see that struggle through and you get to the point where, oh my gosh, you just did it.
Yeah.
After all that hard work and failure, it's pretty exciting, and it just makes it that much sweeter.
Yeah, so, it really is.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit. You mentioned it. The reason you even started CrossFit was while you were in the Marine Corps. Stress was high. You're starting to feel like you really needed to do something about that. I hear all the time from people that CrossFit is their anxiety medication, if you will. So we talk about that. There's actually some studies that came out recently that talked about high intensity exercise and the link to helping manage anxiety.
Yeah, for sure. I think at first it was a discipline, and then it became a necessity. I'd been in places before in my life where I had an unhealthy obsession with working out. At one point, again, this is like more personal, but at one point in my life, I was running, trying to run 6 miles a day and eating less than like 900 calories, and just like totally unhealthy obsessions. And CrossFit, again, just kind of helped me find a balance, like a healthy mental balance. And so, like I said, at first it was a discipline. I would pick a class time that I knew was going to work for me. I said, no matter what's going on at work, unless it's an emergency and there's someone I have to help, or we have to get handled before I go home, I'm going to this class, and I think that was a real hard shift for me because, any Marine will tell you, it's not about you, obviously. And, nobody cares. Like, nobody cares how you're doing. So that's not totally true, but it a lot of times felt like the mindset was more like your work to get done. It will always be far more important than how you're feeling. And so it was really hard to pull myself. And I know that's not just a Marine Corps thing. Like, people feel that pressure to perform at work or to just get things done, or just to log hours. A lot of times it became like a point of pride how little sleep we were getting or how long of days we were working, and just at the expense of our mental health, And so it was a real discipline to make myself go to that, 6 p.m. class every day, or 5 p.m., whatever I decided. And then when I saw how much more efficient it made me, when I felt that consistent endorphin, I guess, like dump. And then, as I started to be more, just that discipline carried over into my sleep habits. I honestly, like, CrossFit and sleep really helped me find a better balance throughout, my life. So, and it just made me more patient, having known that I had like done something for myself, really worked hard, really pushed myself, and got to kind of laugh with other people, because the environment I was in was not necessarily one of humor and comedy, but once gotten to connect with people, just really, it made me want to go to work. It made me want to be more efficient. It made me want to be kinder to people, and it just gave me this, just gave me more, peace and balance within, what I was doing. So,
it's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
it was amazing. So just from going to work out for 1 hour a day, but it's true. And I hear stories like that time and time again. And, whether it's coming into a group of people that is supportive, or if it's just the ability to kind of put the rest of your life in the back of your mind for just a minute while you focus on, learning something new, or whether it's just zoning out and pushing as hard as you can on that particular workout. I don't know. Is it all of it together? Probably. You know, but it really, I just hear time and time again how CrossFit has helped people manage their anxiety, manage their stress, and just feel better. And it helps when you're in a group of like-minded people, and we're all at different stages in the class and within the gym in our fitness journey, but we're all after the same thing, which is progress and just to be the best that we can be. And so I think that's one of the reasons that CrossFit community just works so well for people. I had another thought and now it's escaped me. Of course. But I know what it is. So one of the biggest things people have a hard time with is making that change. Like you talked about, it's everywhere in the world today. Like we feel all this pressure to, you know, show up at work every day, be there longer, you know, oh, so-and-so needs me to do this, I need to go do that. And we don't make time to take care of ourselves. What are some of the strategies you use to make sure you did that?
Yeah, I think part of it was like the people I surrounded myself with. I know that's hard because, you know, especially now that so many things are virtual and it's so hard for us to make connection with people. I mean, I was fortunate enough it was CrossFit. Certainly, I was in a really good church, you know, I had a really strong group of people. You know, for me, that was like my faith, some kind of spiritual health. For other people, that looks different. You know, and the people at work who I just gravitated toward and could be more honest with. I think that's one thing that I would encourage people to do is find some kind of vulnerability is hard, but and not necessarily sharing your whole life and spilling your guts with every person who will listen to you, but finding someone who's like-minded, who's genuine, who will listen and who you can trust, you know, to encourage you in those positive habits, those positive, you know, activities. And again, that's hard now because we're so used to connecting virtually. We're used to, you know, seeing people's lives from a distance on social media.
And those virtual connections, sometimes we kind of confuse for real connections and they're not, it's not the same. It's very different. Yeah. So I would definitely urge people to be aware of that.
Yeah, for sure.
And really kind of, like you said, seek out those real connections with people that are reciprocal and you know, you feel like you can talk to them and not just put on a show, but talk about your struggles in a manner that, you know, you want honest feedback and bounce ideas off of them and you know, both directions.
Yeah, for sure. The community piece is huge. I mean, and that helps with CrossFit too. You know, when you meet people, you know, you meet people in the class that you really vibe with, and then you go to the same class together, and that accountability is huge. But I think too, just eliminating things, and I guess like piece of advice would be just like eliminate things that give you immediate like gratification or immediate satisfaction. Because, you know, the more I found the more I distance myself from whatever it was, like notifications on my phone, social media, you know, it's like making myself read a long book or something to have to work towards something and get through something. That also helped translate into being consistent at CrossFit, knowing that, you know, yes, I was going to get that immediate satisfaction of like that high after a workout or feeling good after a workout, but I was also going to see, and that's kind of where I am now, I may not be able to see it now, but the long-term benefits of being consistently, you know, just moving consistently and keeping my intensity high and, you know, eating relatively well, or at least being kind to myself the way I eat, which was, you know, not always the case with me. So just being able to just mindful in the least, you know, I'm not saying that you have to like quit social media or, you know, stop whatever.
Never eat anything delicious or, you know, it doesn't need to be one extreme or the other.
Right.
But mindfulness goes a long way. And then I think that is your idea about that instant gratification is one of the biggest issues we have right now, because working out is hard. Building a consistent, healthy lifestyle is hard. And it's harder because we don't see that instant result from it within, you know, a day, a week, a month even. It takes that consistent effort time over time over time, before you see that progress. And it's definitely worth it. But in today's world of instant gratification, it's just so easy to give into what feels good right now. And, that's not always making yourself go to a workout. That's not always getting up and doing the workout or saying, you know what, I've put my hours in for work today. I need to leave and I need to go get my workout in. Or saying, I really don't feel like cooking tonight. So, I'm going to go through the drive-through. Instead saying, I'm just going to go home and spend the extra little bit of time making something healthy for my body.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but it's worth it.
Right. And that's the thing is it's just so hard to know. And I think that's what's hard because, you don't know what issues you avoid. I will never know if I was, well, maybe I will, I will never know if I don't have a heart attack when I'm 70, I'll never know that I was supposed to have a heart attack when I was 70. It's
because you didn't take care of yourself.
Right. And so I think that's part of the motivation is just to, and not necessarily for me, I think at one point in my life, I would have said, it's for my physique. I want to look good. And now I care so little about what I look like. And it's been really kind of cool to see my mindset shift. Almost slipped and said a bad word, to caring more just about how I feel and the long-term benefits of, just not being a burden on my family, being able to, if we ever have kids, being able to be active with them and then just, help them be active and, enjoy the way their bodies move and be positive about their bodies,
and not rely on external validation.
Right, exactly. Which is hard. I mean, it's still something that, therapy is helpful. That's also another piece of advice. You can find a good therapist. Nothing wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, part of that too is probably like my frontal lobe has formed now and my motivations and my judgment is different. But it's been cool to see how I have grown and how my motivations and my desires have changed from something being real, almost like selfish and internal to being more like community based and, and long-term based and like that immediate gratification.
Yeah. And I think that is something that shift happens for a lot of people just as you get older.
Yeah.
But also I just see it a lot in CrossFit, especially for women. When they're younger, they tend to come in and they're just really focused on how they look, or not even younger, even, middle age or whatever age, if they just haven't learned to appreciate their body for what it can do and the health, that it has, versus it looking a certain way. Usually CrossFit has been a really good tool for a lot of people to kind of shift out of that mindset that can be so damaging. When you're trying to look a certain way or you're trying to be like somebody else, look like somebody else, it's just a road to misery, really. But when you start appreciating your body for what it can do for you and what it can do for other people, and your ability to go help other people, and just kind of be in awe of the things you can do with it and see how, nourishing that body and giving it the sleep that it needs, how that helps it even more. I think that's a big shift that a lot of people experience with CrossFit. And I think it's really important and, it's a big deal.
Yeah. And that's, like I said, it's the major barrier that most women face as far as like joining a gym or, being consistently fit, is just trying to overcome their own hatred of their bodies. Like, and I can attest to that. Like I've been there, I felt it. I know what a struggle it is. And it's, like I said, it's just been a real, miracle, blessing, crazy, just how my mindset, because it's funny if I think about when I was, like college, early adulthood, I can't imagine not constantly being worried about what I look like. Like that thought felt foreign to me. And now, like you said, it's more, I don't know, it's getting older, it's being more mature, it's, being more grounded, whatever it is. It's just being in CrossFit, seeing other people who look totally different from me, who maybe in a, previous life I would have judged for the way they look. And now they are, outlifting me, outmoving me, outrunning me. And I'm like, it does not matter. Like half of that is genetics. You know, I used to, you know, see these women who just, you know, whatever, built like goddesses, however you want to say it. And I was like, man, you know, I'm going to look like them someday. Well, no, you're not, because you don't have their genetics, you know, like a lot of that is literally not in you. And so, and I mean, and that's why I started running cross country. And part of the reason I wanted to run cross country, because I wanted to look like a thin runner, you know, and it absolutely broke me. Like my body has never been so unhappy. And it helped out with Marine Corps stuff. Like I was able to run 3 miles really fast for me. But it was not what my body was happier doing. And I'll still go out on a run. Like I haven't got to the point where I hate it, you know, and I'll still try to do the distance thing every now and then. But
just a more moderate approach.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe not so extreme. And I think that moderation it's been a game changer.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And it's kind of, for me, it's fun to see people come in here and, you know, of all shapes and sizes, like you talked about. And, you know, they do things they never thought in a million years that they could do. And just seeing the joy on their face when that happens. It's just awesome. And to see them little by little let go of that damaging mindset as far as like being completely focused on what they look like versus, you know, what they can do and you know, how they might inspire other people and how they can help other people. And it's just, we're pretty lucky.
Yeah, for sure. And it's so cool to see how that mindset has carried over into like some of my physical therapy stuff. I mean, I'm only starting my 2nd year, but I had a rotation this summer, and I think there were, you know, I was working predominantly in like a geriatric setting, and it's crazy that there are people in their like probably, you know, 70s and 80s who have never been told that they're doing a good job or never been encouraged or never really been pushed. And that's, you know, part of my reason for wanting to get into physical therapy too is, you know, I think people can be pushed, you know, in a lot of situations it's inappropriate, but a lot of people can be pushed harder than they thought they could, you know, and they can do more than they thought they could do. And that mindset shift is huge. It's life-changing for some people, you know. And so sometimes I think that's what I was fortunate enough to grow up in a really supportive household. You know, had great parents, were, you know, always super proud of whatever I was doing. We're always there, you know, for events and stuff like that. But some people, a CrossFit gym is the first place where they've had people cheer for them. It's the first place they've had people encourage them, clap for them. Like, and I get emotional thinking about it because it's just, it's crazy that this is the first place some people have ever felt that. And that can be totally transformative for people too. Like
and to think though that some people are nervous to come to CrossFit because they quote unquote can't do it. Yeah. And I just wish they would come and give it a shot and see what they can do and the support that they'll get.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
It's pretty awesome. So let's talk about physical therapy school. You actually, this last year, one of your professors asked you to do a little project related to CrossFit for him.
Yeah,
you want to talk about
I
that?
read about that.
Cool.
I know it was really cool. So we had a therapeutic exercise class. It was literally just, you know, for me, it was like, it was just going over, you know, basic exercises that you can implement for people for stability, mobility, neuromuscular reeducation, balance, you know, agility, all that. And he's kind of our professor is, you know, he was a personal trainer before he got into physical therapy. He was like self-professed meathead and has really experimented with a lot of different types of workouts. He works out by himself, but you know, he's definitely implemented a lot of CrossFit into some of his personal workouts and with some of his patients as well. And so he just asked me, you know, I guess I'm like the resident CrossFitter in the class. So my arms are usually pretty dead giveaway. Pretty hesitant to wear sleeveless shirts because it's pretty identifying. But no, he just asked me to make a video about, you know, what CrossFit was about and to just try to help people because he he knows those common perceptions that we talked about earlier, that, people think it's just crazy. And a lot of physical therapists have this really negative, I guess, just negative perception about CrossFit. And, they only see, because that's kind of the nature of the beast. They, physical therapists and a lot of doctors tend to only see injured people coming in from CrossFit. If somebody's super healthy coming in from a physical, they're maybe not necessarily going to say, well, I do CrossFit. They're just going to say, I work out regularly, whatever. And so a lot of physical therapists, again, just have that negative perception. So he wanted me to kind of create a video, demonstrating some of our basic movements, foundational movements, and then just explaining how to have a conversation with someone who does CrossFit, how to modify their treatment and help them implement a treatment that they can do in a CrossFit class, and not discouraging people from, the reason you're hurt is because you're doing CrossFit. You need to stop.
Which that is never the reason they're hurt.
Right, exactly.
They never say the reason you're hurt is because you're playing football.
Right.
Yes. The reason you're hurt is because you were running.
Yeah.
I don't know why CrossFit has been such an easy target. But when I've had one injury that it wasn't major. It was just kind of nagging, that I went and got an MRI for on my knee, and it was really like an accident. It wasn't a overtime type of thing. And, the doctor that I saw was just kind of full of himself and had a bunch of jokes about CrossFit. Meanwhile, I go out in his waiting room is full of high school football players and people over the age of 70 that probably fell trying to do a basic thing, like walk to their car and broke something. And it's like, the football players, it's a dangerous sport. There's a lot of injuries involved. But the people that are 70, how many of them might not have needed to go in there if they had been exercising regularly and doing CrossFit and, built strong bones and muscles to handle something like that. So it's just it's frustrating to hear that. There are plenty of physical therapists and doctors that have experienced CrossFit for themselves and that are huge advocates of it. But, in my mind, until they all can kind of see the positives, we just need to help spread the word.
Yeah, because I think it's so interesting, because on one hand we have our, ACS, our American College of Sports Medicine guidelines for, how much work, how much, high intensity movement you're supposed to get a day, how much, aerobic exercise you're supposed to get a week, weightlifting, all that. So we have our guidelines that we're supposed to really preach to our patients, our clients, athletes, whomever it is. And, it's just counterproductive if you have someone who's super consistent with CrossFit, which is going to get you literally it's going to hit all of. It's funny because as we started talking about this in class, I kind of throughout the months, I would kind of keep track of this day was more anaerobic, this day was more weightlifting, this day was more aerobic, and I would kind of keep track, and every week I would hit those guidelines and exceed those guidelines, and while having, implementing 2 rest days per week, you hit those guidelines so easily with a week, 5 days of CrossFit a week. And so it's just totally counterproductive. And I think that's what part of the video was encouraging. It's you've got someone who's super passionate about moving and super consistent. Don't discourage them from that. Give them tools to modify things, look for correctives to do to get them healthier so that they can maintain that consistency.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome. And I'm super happy that he, encouraged you to do that, and then that you put it together.
Yeah, so. And it's cool too, because now there's so many people in our class who are interested. A lot of people have tried CrossFit. I know here at Texas Tech, they do a free class once a semester or something like that. So a lot of students had access to a free, class or whatever. And then people had done CrossFit just, one-off classes for whatever reason. And there's just more and more people coming up to me. And so that, kind of you and I have talked about setting up a class for students to do, to just have that exposure. But just a little bit of education, I think, has gone a long way for just my classmates, who probably, there were some who just thought, were probably like me, just thought it's a little too much. People don't know what they're doing. They're not real coaches, just not true. It is a good thing for them to do, so.
Yeah. Well, I think that's awesome. Do you have any final things? We've covered quite a few topics, which is good. But do you have any?
final thoughts. I don't know why my husband does CrossFit with me. Blake, that's my husband's name, in case you don't know. It's been a really cool way for us to connect. It's funny because when we first got married, I was doing CrossFit before we got married, and hit a few of his family members do CrossFit as well. And he always said, like, from the very beginning, we were never working out together. Like, that's your space. He would do the Marine Corps fitness thing. You do your thing, I'll do mine. And now we work out every morning together.
And it goes fine.
And it's fine. It's a lot of fun. We pick at each other a lot, but it's good. We just have fun with it together. And a lot of times after a workout, we'll get in the car and be like, that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed working out with you today. And just little things like that can really, and it's definitely not for everybody. I know not all couples can work out together. But it's been something that's been really cool for us. And so, that's kind of my spiel to everyone. Whoever asks about CrossFit is even if you're totally against it, and that's just a principle to maybe implement in your life across the board, something that you think you're totally against, but you don't really have knowledge about, immerse yourself in it just briefly, just try it, try a class, talk to someone, do your research, whatever it may be. Just be a little bit more open-minded to it and give it a try, and if it's not for you, it's not for you, but it could, be something that really sticks and is quite literally life-changing. So,
yep. We've seen it time and time again for ourselves, both of us, and just in our members. Yeah. And it's pretty exciting. That's cool. I think I'm pretty lucky to have a job that lets me see these, life-changing moments with so many people. And
it's huge.
It's pretty great. Yeah. Well, thank you for being a guest on the podcast. And it was pretty good.
Yeah, that was fun. Thanks.